Who are you and what do you do?
I am MC Toon. You can call me Mike or Toon. And I have been debunking flat earthers and debating against them for about 7 years now. And I've gotten, I don't know, people like, why you do it? But I kind of have a skill. It's my interest. So I just keep on crushing them and they keep on crying and it's a good time.
I think that's something that's worth pointing out as well. Like your way of tackling a lot of the, let's be honest, stupidity is by reciprocating how stupid it is. Like you make the arguments, you put the arguments into context for a lot of people that make them. I think for me, a standout moment recently was in Antarctica when you decided to to call Nathan Oakley.
Yeah, did not
For
set.
24 hours.
It did not set for 24 hours. Turns out
Yeah,
Nathan,
that's
Na-
flat.
hey Nathan, you lied. So flat earthers for about 175 years have taken issue with Antarctica, really specifically the last 10 years, since they gained some audience on YouTube. They've said a couple things about Antarctica. They've said that the sun sets in December, which the globe claims, that in reality claims that, it doesn't, that if you're at the actual South Pole, you have about 6 months of the sun being up the whole time and varying amounts, varying days of 24-hour sun as you get farther from the pole to right on the Antarctic Circle. You just get one day on December 21st. So that's one. Two is that there's an ice wall holding in the waters of the Earth instead of a continent and land and stuff like that. Somehow it's ice. Totally unaware, apparently, that ice floats, so the water would go underneath. It wouldn't work too well. And then number three, and this is very puzzling because um, because if you look at their map, this is the map that they've used for 175 years. Um, Here's Antarctica, and doing the math according to their map, that's about 60,000 miles. And they claim that if you try to go to Antarctica, you'll get turned away at gunpoint. Quote, turned away at gunpoint. I don't know how anybody could police 60,000 miles of coast and not have somebody that's like, hey, yeah, I just got back from a 2-year tour of policing 60,000 miles of the coast. There's nobody. There's nobody that's like, yeah, this is the people that do it. There's just nothing. It's just this mythical army of thousands of people and hundreds of ships that don't exist. So flat earther Nathan Oakley in 2015. So almost 10 years ago now, on Facebook was posting things about Antarctica saying, well, this is what happens, and I'd love to go there because I really want to see what it's like down there, but you can't because you'll get turned away at gunpoint. So fast forward 10 years or 9.5 years to last December when I was in Antarctica, and Nathan Oakley was live on his channel, which is on it's a Discord server that he then broadcasts out to his YouTube channel. So, and somebody had noticed it in our group and said, "Hey, Nathan Oakley's live right now talking about our trip." And I'm like, "Oh, well, let me just jump into the Discord server." So I did. I didn't say anything until somebody noticed and said, "Hey, Toon is there." And I confronted him there live. I'm standing in Antarctica, no ice wall. I'd seen the 24-hour sun, and there were no guns. And now, being a tactic of Nathan Oakley is that he mutes people. If he talk when he has it set up so when he talks, it automatically mutes the other side. So I know this. So I know that if he starts talking, that I am automatically muted. Now, my side of this was recorded, and I knew that too. So people can compare his side where I'm muted to my side where I'm not, and can also then, the trick is if you ever have to go on there, don't ever go on there. But if you ever do, and he starts muting you, the trick is you have to not stop talking because he can't hear you very well. And as soon as he stops talking, then you get unmuted again, and his audience can hear that he muted you in the middle of your sentence, and they can hear then your sentence pick up. So I'm like, okay, well, he started muting me, and I just went into in nonstop talking mode, and basically went through and said, Nathan, you lied. You said that we'd get turned away at gunpoint. There's no guns. You said that the sun would set. It didn't set. And there's no ice wall. I said, Nathan, you lied. Where are the guns? And so it was a great video. In the end, put it up on my channel there shortly after, just yelling in the desert of Antarctica, my voice bouncing off the distant mountains, saying, Nathan, where are the guns? I don't see any guns.
Honestly, it's one of the most brilliant moments in flat earth internet history. 100 times at least I've watched that. As far as I'm aware, Nathan Oakley, because obviously he was a big proponent, him and Eric Dubé and pretty much everyone else were proponents of the fact that Antarctica, there's been a bit of a confusion because firstly it was Antarctica didn't exist, and then it was the ice wall, gunpoint, then no 24-hour sun. Since this has all come about, a lot of them have focused their energy on saying that it doesn't matter rather than explaining on a flat earth model, and big caveat around the word model, but explaining why it happened or trying to rework their model to show how it could happen. They've just said it now doesn't matter. Is that something that kind of fits the narrative of what flat earthers do with every piece of evidence?
Well, yeah, of course. So I don't know if there's any introduction to this, but the whole point of this trip to Antarctica I took last month was to test their claim, because for nearly 10 years, flat earthers have been saying if the sun does circles for 24 hours in Antarctica, it's a globe. They've been saying that. So until Pastor Will Duffy, who's independently wealthy before he became a pastor, said, I will pay for some people to go there. Until then, that was their narrative. And then as soon as he's like, hey, I'd like to pay for you to go, they're like, oh, I don't know. No, I'm not going. I'm not going. A whole bunch of people were offered free trips. They backed out.
It's like if someone offered to take the flat earthers to space now, if Elon Musk stepped forwards and said, right, I'll fly 10 flat earthers up into space, they'd all say no.
You could find some, of course.
Yeah.
And this is predictable. The ones would say no because they need to protect their position. The ones that do go will get attacked by their own community then, which is exactly what's happened. So let's back up here.
Yeah.
There you said, well, this was their position. There's actually about 4 positions that I've identified that they've gone into. The biggest group is claiming that it was all faked, which is ridiculous because we still haven't released even half of our videos. I have nearly three terabytes of video from my action cam, which is like a GoPro. None of that's been up. We've got multiple 360 degree Insta 360 cameras, and we've published 3. There's another one. No, we've published 2 real time. There's another real time, so like 50 frames a second, not a time lapse.
Yep.
We've published 1 time lapse, so there's another full 24 hours, 30 frames a second, and another 36-hour time lapse to be published, in addition to nearly 3 terabytes of just action cam footage. They haven't looked at any of that, and so they're claiming fake. And we've just sat back and let them say that and commit themselves to that position because it's a losing position.
Yeah.
Because thousands of people go. Anybody can go. So if you want to prove us wrong, just go. Right? It's expensive, but I will, and I've done this. I've said, I'll solve that monetary problem for you, flatties. I'll put $100,000 in escrow. You put $100,000 in escrow, and we both go next year. And if the sun circles for 24 hours a day, I get your $200,000. And if the sun sets or we're turned away at gunpoint, then you get my $100,000. So they get to go if they're confident. Zero risk to them if they're confident. For some reason, I don't know why. None of them that have said it was fake have taken me up on this generous offer.
It's almost like they've got something to lose. I
It
don't
it
know.
seems to me that they're confident that I would be winding up with their money. Uh, anyway, so that's one. That's number one. The second group is saying, um, well, here's we predicted it all along. They didn't, but we predicted it all along. It's bouncing off. It's a reflection off of the firmament, because they think there's a big dome. Like they think there's a big dome over it, like it's got some reflective properties. But if it was reflecting the sun, you'd see the regular sun and the reflection of the sun. You'd see
Yes.
two suns. How does that work? And in case well, you didn't really cover it. So here's the map that they until recently they all almost all agreed on. This is where we were down here, and and we saw the sun this direction, but they say the sun is up here. I mean, we know that the sun is in reality at that moment was over the Indian Ocean near Australia
Yeah.
at the moment of local midnight when we were looking due south and seeing it. So how can the sun be down here simultaneously up here? Well, it's reflecting off the dome. Well, you'd see the real sun and you'd see the reflected sun at both. You'd look north and south. Plus, if it were reflected, then the sunspots
We flipped.
would be mirrored. And we got photographs of the sunspots with the solar filter, one every minute. So we have over 1,300 photographs of the sun with sunspots, and they don't mirror. In fact, you actually see, and it's really cool. Over 24 hours, you actually see the sun rotating a little bit. The sun rotates. We don't know it because we can't see with our own eyes, but if you take 24 hours of photographs, you can see the sun rotating. It's really cool.
Has any flat earthers responded to the sunspot photos yet? Because as far as if you forgot every other piece of evidence, the sunspot photos in themselves are proof. But
Yes.
has anyone actually come
Um,
up with an argument for that yet?
no, they really try to avoid that topic.
I wonder why.
Okay, that's number two. Number
There's two
three,
more positions. Yeah.
yes, number three is what doesn't matter. We never made a claim. Well, make a claim or not, you have to explain it,
Yeah.
right? Is it this map? Oh, no, that's not our map. Oh, well, what is your map? Oh, we don't have a map. Well, I'm sorry. How do you not have a map? There's 100,000 commercial airline flights every day. They all use a map. What
They
map
don't
do they use?
guess. They don't guess where they're
Yeah.
going.
Would you get on an airplane if you thought that the navigator had no idea what the map of the Earth was? Trust your life to them not knowing where they're going? You would not. Nobody would. No sane person would. So every single flat earther that's ever gotten on an airplane trusts that the navigator using the globe map did it right. And then number four, this is the most insane one. There's only one flat earther that I know that says this, a pastor from Alabama, hillbilly pastor from Alabama, who ran for governor. Anyway, he says that Satan is the sun.
I think I've seen the videos.
Yeah, and so that's what happened. That Satan is the sun, and Satan climbed up into the sky and went around in circles for 24 hours a day while we were there. Um, it's a bit of a stretch, I'll tell you.
No,
But
I'm trying to get my head in the. I can see it. I can, just yeah,
no,
makes
no,
perfect sense.
no sense at all. There's, I mean, of all the straw grasping, that one wins.
I just don't. So from my point of view, obviously I've watched flat Earth related content for years, and I've seen a lot of it getting like a lot of the rebuttals. And normally when it comes to anything scientific based, there is no rebuttal. It's here's some evidence and we discuss and then we come to a conclusion. With flat Earth, I think it's safe to assume if there was any credence at all to anything the flat Earth community has generated, if any genuine scientific evidence was brought to light by forget governments, forget NASA, just by people, it would be well understood by now. And the fact that just take the past 10 years alone, nothing has been brought forward to put into question the shape of the planet. It is crazy to see some of the lengths that people will go to justify it. And I think that's why the the whole situation with Jaren is very interesting because we've had someone who's one of the biggest proponents of the flat Earth in the community now have. And I don't think it's just like a shift in his ideology. I think his whole world has been flipped upside down by this. And it's really interesting to see. I mean, already his recent content over the past few days, like actually dissecting his previous arguments and explaining things, has been very interesting to see. And what's your thoughts on, obviously we see the flat earthers that continue to dispute it, but the way that Jaren's approached it, what are your thoughts at the moment?
Um, well, Jaren goes back to, as I think most flat earthers should, because to this, right? This is how flat earthers are introduced to it. And all of the flat earthers that are like, well, we don't need a map, we don't need a model, we don't make claims. They all got into it with this. Every one of them came into flat earth looking at this thinking this is it. And then they look at this and they examine a few of the claims, and sometimes they're like, "Oh, that doesn't work. Let me put that away." And then a few of them propose a different map, but mostly they just say, "Well, we don't need a map." Right? So they that's where a lot of them are headed now. But
Yeah.
Jaren was like, "You can't get by without a map. That doesn't make sense." He's honest enough and critical thinking enough to say, "Look, you can't do that. There's no map that explains the sun doing that. What are you going to do? You could flip the map and you could say Antarctica's in the middle, and that then the Arctic Circle is on the perimeter." But then there's no ice wall and there's just water spilling over the edge, or there's a dome somewhere. But that doesn't work because people fly across the north all the time. There's regular flights that go across the north. Nobody has it. So he before even going to Antarctica, he's like, I'm pretty sure he's like, yeah, if the sun's up, nothing works. Everything crumbles. So
Which is the way you should look at it. It's a healthy way to look at
well,
it.
yeah, absolutely. So he's taken step by step. He's like looking at this. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. And he's given each step of the way the reasons why he's thought that, and gets attacked and attacked and attacked instead of people saying, well, that does make sense. We want to be critical thinkers. Um, to give credit, there are some that have come along with him and said, you know what, that does make sense. And so, last, I think a week and a half ago, almost, he said he's no longer a flat earther. Didn't go any farther than that. Didn't say what, and he's just like, I don't know, but I can't be a flat earther anymore. That doesn't work. So he's in this limbo state, and where he comes out, we can hope that he continues on the same path. I think it will bring him to a good position. But he's before even going, he had already been getting attacked and had severed a bunch of his ties with former people that he was friends with had already started attacking him just for going. And so he's like, he's not losing those connections. He's not losing that community. It's already lost.
Yeah.
So that gives him the freedom that other people won't feel.
I always took the stance that I think a fair proportion of the people in the flat Earth community are grifters. It's for the money, and I'll throw my hands up and say I believed that Jaren was one of those until this trip, because it genuinely seemed like the results he found potentially rocked his world. I'm not sure whether it's from a position of he always knew the Earth was a globe and this is something that he just couldn't deny, or whether it was he. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, it's a touchy topic to talk on about what someone's ethics and approach are into flat
Yeah.
Earth, but uh, did you? What was your stance on Jaren beforehand? Did you believe it was a financially thing, or he actually believed it?
Um, so you're right. It's really difficult to discern somebody's true motives.
Yeah,
So I'll say though, in general, I don't think well, if we define grifter as somebody that doesn't believe the position but does it just for money.
Yeah.
That's
Eric
one
Dubay.
definition. I don't think so. I think
Really?
I think there's a couple, but I don't think there's many. There's another I would propose definition for grifter. People that their financial well-being relies on it and so are unwilling consciously or subconsciously to move their position.
Yeah.
And I think that definition of grifter is if you want to use that, that's not really the best. Grifter isn't the best word for it, I think, but if you
Yeah.
I don't know a better word. So if we use that definition for whatever real correct word that would be, I think there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So I think Dubé falls in that. I think Flat Earth Dave is in there. I think most of the big names that it's their main livelihood or a large part of their livelihood, that's where they're at. And I think for a lot of them, it's a subconscious thing. For Jaren specifically, I do not think that he was the first definition of grifter. Absolutely not. I did at one moment, and I challenged him on that, and he convinced me otherwise. A couple years ago, I put out a video where I analyzed what he did. I'm like, oh, he did an ISS transit and recorded the video, and then he redacted some of the information from the Transit Finder website. And I'm like, oh, he did that because it's 3D geometric globe information that would lead anybody that needs it back to his exact spot because it was right outside of his house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, he did that because he knew, right? Because he knew. And he convinced me otherwise. He showed me on the Transit Finder website, you can actually brute force search by looking for the different thing on the day of the transit, and you
Yeah.
can just click on the map and you can actually zero in pretty quickly to get the exact same numbers.
Okay.
So it wasn't at all admitting that the Earth is a globe. It's admitting that you could brute force find it on the web
Yeah.
page. So I'm like, okay, I'll give you that. And so I deleted that video. I privated that video, and all right, and I apologized. I said, all right. So since then, I've talked with him a good amount, and um, I think it was more of he had a subconscious position
Yeah.
that he wouldn't release. And there's reasons for that. Like money is a big one, but I think another one for the even bigger than just money is community and social standing, right? Everybody needs community, and you'll find that a lot of flat earthers have severed their family and friends relationships because of flat earth. And I think a lot of them came into flat earth already damaged with already struggling interpersonal relationships. They found a home in flat earth. They couldn't stop talking about it. It pushed everybody else away. And so now they're 1, 2, 3, 5 years into it, and they're they don't have any community much outside of flat earth. So they don't want to move on. They don't want to admit. They won't even consider because it means giving up the community that everybody needs.
Yeah. I think the contextual, there's a lot of, we can pick apart the arguments of why flat Earth arguments are completely wrong, but then there's also that human element, that real human element, where it is about connection, friendships, building friendships, and but at the same time, we can also attack that because that takes away from the friendships and relationships the person had to begin with. I hate to say it over and over, but it is a cult. It's
Don't hate to say it, it's the truth.
yeah. I feel like when talking to flat earthers, I mean, I've done a few videos now defining it as a cult, and I feel awful for the flat earthers that comment that are in full defense of the fact it isn't a cult because they're so heavily in it that they can't see it is. And
Yeah.
that human part of you wants to help, but there's nothing you can do other than try to educate in the best way you can. So, yeah, it's a proper shame. It is a proper
Yeah.
shame.
Well, they
Um,
don't want to be educated. That's
no,
that's the they're unwilling students.
yes, and that's why probably what you do becomes a lot harder.
Yeah.
From
And I get jaded.
Yeah.
Um, they attack me. They attack me. They try to make very personal attacks almost daily. I get accused of things that you wouldn't accuse people lightly of. But just because that I challenge their worldview, they'll go make those accusations
Yeah.
um, against me. I'm like, it shows though, it does reveal their character an awful lot that they go to that place when they don't have anything, right?
Yeah.
That's an admission. You don't have it. If you did, you just post evidence.
If you go
You,
to
you,
personal attacks
yeah.
before evidence, you've lost the argument to begin with.
Well, especially personal attacks of that sort,
Yes.
right? Well, why do you have to always bring that into it?
Yeah.
Kids, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah, of
adults
course.
with kids. That's like, why is that your go-to? And I'm like, is that is that something that's always on their mind? If it is, that's, I mean, really sick.
It's
Um,
questionable.
just today, I'm on Facebook. Somebody from England, I think. No, no, not England. Somebody from the United States did that, made that accusation in a DM on Facebook, and I'm like, all right. So I screenshot the DM, I posted out on my main page, I tagged the person, and you know, an hour later, there's 250 comments on there calling out the flat earther, fortunately, saying, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And this is what's really crazy. He actually commented on my right with there's 250 posts on there, and none of them are supporting him. None. And he actually posted on there saying, "Oh, the comment section on here isn't looking good for you." To me, like, you didn't read any. How could you? What world do you live in?
The thing is, a normal person loses an argument and then backs away, like, because you know you've lost, so you just either apologize or you just don't respond. But a
Yeah.
lot of flat earthers, when presented with anything that challenges anything they say, it's they take the position like they've won. And whether it's a serious accusation like that or it's a stupid thing, they'll take the position that they've constantly won the argument. And it does that confuses me. I've seen it in my comment section before where people have been so obviously wrong or said something that's almost embarrassing, and then they continue commenting with a sense of arrogance that they've won. And I'm like, oh, I'd leave if I were you.
On my YouTube videos, I typically will pin that comment,
Yeah, I've seen
right?
that.
I don't delete comments.
Pin of shame.
Yeah, it's the pin of shame. Like somebody comes in making some ridiculous claim, has zero comments, right? It's 2 days old, and I'll find it where they're trying to talk smack. I'm like, what are you? All right, pinning that. You know, a day later, there's 75 comments under there of the person saying, other people saying, "What are you thinking? This isn't looking good for you."
Well, this is something that I posted a video today about Lord Jamar.
Oh my gosh.
And the thing is that one of the parts that they did a podcast, and one of the parts of the podcast was saying that Google pushes anti-flat Earth content and all of this, and him and Dave Weiss and a few others were talking about it. And my main point in that section of the video was the only reason flat Earth content performs as well as it does is because flat Earthers make it so easy. Like
Oh yeah.
the only
The
way
bar is
that
low.
every piece of flat Earth content that comes out, by definition, and there's no shame in this, it's low hanging fruit because it's so easy to debunk and make entertaining. A lot of flat Earthers think that there's a big Google conspiracy now to stop people ever finding flat Earth content, and if there is, there should be because it's damaging. But at the same time, people debunking flat Earth, it gets views because it's entertaining because it's such an archaic belief system.
Yeah.
Um,
It
it's
it's
crazy.
even more than just an archaic belief system.
Yeah,
The Certainly there were ancient people that thought the earth was flat, and there's plenty of examples of this in writing. The Greeks thought so.
yeah,
Prior to 500 BC, somewhere there, was generally when the Greeks discarded that. But there was no internet. Communication was slow. So, but they thought that the sun at night went, underground and then took a boat underneath the ocean, underneath the ground, and came out the other side and popped out the other side. That's what they think.
Yeah.
So that the entire Earth had night at the same time. So call that universal night. And that's what all the ancient cultures had. You look at Aztecs and Mayans, and in the Book of Enoch, it says that the sun goes through portals at night, and right, it's consistent.
No, I'm starting
Yeah,
to hear all of this same stuff regurgitated by flat earthers now.
yeah. So
Portals.
they're like, well, all the ancient cultures used to believe the Earth is flat. Well, that's not evidence. That's an attempt to appeal to popularity.
Yeah.
But if you look at how they actually thought the Earth was, universal night. So it didn't work. So, but this idea of that the modern flat earthers have, it didn't exist before 175 years ago when a British man, Samuel Rowbottom, said, "This is the Earth, and the sun is above it, and it just gets too far away to see." But when you actually do the geometry, like it doesn't work at all, not even close, because he said the sun was between 2,000 and 4,000 miles high. He varied his claims about it. But if the sun is that high, then there's no point on the Earth where it's low. In fact, when the sun is here, right, on the Tropic of Capricorn on December 21st, the farthest away you could get outside of Antarctica is down here at the southern tip of South America, where I was before we went there. And if you do the actual geometry for it, the sun could never be lower than 10 degrees above the horizon on that day in the middle of the night. So it can't get too far away.
But also angular size as well. Like the fact that it doesn't change size should by itself is a massive testament to how far away it is.
Yeah. Well, and this goes to a couple things. Number one, the target audience for flat earthers to get new flat earthers is people that don't understand geometry enough to know that the sun could never set, and don't understand geometry enough to know that the sun must shrink in angular size. But then when they hear, oh, the sun must shrink in angular size, then they rely on the gullibility of flat earthers, and they'll show a video without a solar filter of the sun. And if you ever take a photo or a video of the sun,
Lens
it's
flare.
giant because it's so bright. It's glare, not lens flare. It's glare, and it just blows out the sensors. You get this really large area of the sun, but really it's not big. It's just spillage over into the sensor, and so if you get a solar filter on it, it does not change. It's always the same width. But they
The
show a
sensor
video.
will try and expose for the rest of the shot, not for that dot in the sky.
Yeah, they don't understand photography, which is common because most people's exposure to photography is this.
Yeah.
Turn on the phone, tap a
And,
button.
and it's
That's
good,
it.
but it's not good enough.
No,
that.
they don't know what, when you say you need to properly expose the shot, they don't know what that means.
Yeah.
That's fine. You don't need to know what that means, but they're leveraging these people's ignorance on photography. And so they show a video of the sun, the glare being really bright and then getting close to the horizon. It's actually right on the horizon and starting to get obstructed.
Yeah.
And so when the sun is half obstructed with the solar filter, it's just a half a sun. But with glare, it's just a big round glare. You can't tell, and it's shrinking. But they've already falsified flat Earth because, as I said, the geometry requires that the sun could never get close to the ground. But they don't understand the geometry enough.
What I've noticed just in my past month or so of being on Flat Earth YouTube is a lot of the comments that try and attempt to explain these things are things like they'll just throw the word refraction, or they'll throw the word illusion, or it seems like
Perspective.
well, perspective, that's a good one. They seem like the get out of jail free cards for flat earth arguments.
Yeah. And they're very surface level claims, right? It's one or two sentences that have no specifics in it. They're like, oh, it's perspective. You just don't understand perspective. Well, oh, okay. Let's go through it step by step. Show me the application of perspective. Well, they can't do that. All they know is the one or two sentences to say, because that's the one or two sentences that they were told from their Papa Flurf.
Yeah.
And their Papa Flurf put it together knowing that it was a good marketing term. Yeah. Right. And they won't be held accountable to somebody live, right? So like Eric Dubay, he won't debate somebody live. He'll just say perspective in a video where he's safe, and he won't talk to somebody that knows how to address his stuff because he won't be safe there. And I could say to him, let's walk through the application of perspective, and he won't know how. He knows he can't.
Yeah. I think as well, like another big one, especially recently, that's really made a massive surface is the Earth measures flat or measures level or whatever they want to call it. It changes.
Yeah, flat. Yeah.
But like I've had like Nathan Oakley recently posted a clip about 3 or 4 days ago of me to his channel, just a 20-second clip where I said that um, you you measure objects locally, like the driveway of your house, flat because the curvature is negligible. He cut the end of the sentence off and then tried to turn it into an argument how everything's measured flat. But the rest of
Yeah.
the video was about geodesic surveys. um,
Yeah. Lying
Thankfully,
is an important skill.
most of them only lie to their audience, but I'm convinced a lot of them have to lie to themselves as well because of what we mentioned earlier about people being so involved in it, whether that be financially or not, that they
Yeah.
have to keep going with it. A topic that I want to briefly touch on as well is obviously I've been very fortunate to be all the way up north. I've been all around the world in the past doing video work and everything. There's one place that I don't think I'll ever get to visit, which is Antarctica. What was it like?
It was the most amazing trip. From the outside beforehand, you're like, oh, it's just snow. It's nothing but cold. You look at the videos, and sometimes it's just somebody standing there with the wind blowing and snow going constantly, and they've got their beard with ice on their beard, and right, that happens there. But we went there at the peak of summer, so it's the right time of year to go. It's the warmest time of year. So not to say that you don't get bad weather and it doesn't get really cold at that time of year, but it's the best time of year to go. And the place we went was a pretty good place to go. It's so we went to what's called Union Glacier. It's in the Ellsworth Mountains, and so we're in a valley surrounded by mountains on all sides. So it really blocks the wind. So the first 2 days we were there, basically no wind. When we got there, the temperature was above 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not much below 0 Celsius.
Yeah,
So it's always below 0 Celsius, but it wasn't much. So I live in Minnesota. For me, it wasn't bad at all. I have, it was the kind of weather where if I was going to spend an hour outside, I'd just wear jeans, maybe shoes or boots and a coat,
I'm
t-shirt,
su-
and a
I'm
coat.
sure I'm sure Dave McKeegan wasn't aware he was in a different country then.
Yeah. So Dave McKeegan is from England, and he lives so I live at about 45 degrees north in Minneapolis, but I'm inside the continent, so it's cold here. Like right now today, it's below 0 Fahrenheit. Last night it got down to, I don't know, nearly 20 below Fahrenheit. So almost 30 below Celsius, like 26 Celsius negative.
Yeah, that's you feel
So,
that.
oh yeah, yeah. So you definitely feel it. Cars don't like to start, and everything's a little more challenging.
That's
So
brutal.
a lot of schools were canceled today. So anyway, so Dave is from 50 to 52 degrees north, somewhere in there, but England is surrounded by water, so it's a lot more temperate. But yeah, when we were there though, it was kind of warm, and we had been on the airplane, and a half an hour before we land, they're like, well, it was a 757, a really nice plane. They turn down the heat. They say, put on your cold weather gear. So we put everything on because we had to carry everything. So we put on the boots that are rated to negative 100 Fahrenheit. We put on these coats that were massively huge. We had our long johns and thermal, insulating layer and snow pants on the bottom. We had our big thick gloves on. We had like everything ready for, whatever, really cold stuff. We get off the plane, we get into the Tucker is the thing that the vehicle that brought us back to the camp.
Yeah,
And pretty soon after we get in there, we're like, oh, it's warm in here. It's really warm in here. We're sweating in here. How long till we get there? Um, so we get there and we're still because you're jammed into this vehicle. You can't take your stuff off. So we get out, we're like taking everything off, hauling it with us, and like, where's our tent? Where can we put this stuff down? And so then one guy's just wearing a t-shirt. I'm just wearing like a thin coat, sweatshirt kind of thing. And it was 25 degrees Fahrenheit, so not much below 0 Celsius. And plus, we still had our boots and our pants on and everything. So we're like, our bottoms are plenty warm, so it was a good balance. And so we played some frisbee and walked around with t-shirts, and it was really comfortable. There were very few clouds, and we call it snow, and it's white, but it's not really snow. The It's not flakes. They were never
You do
six-sided
realize that's
cute
going to
little
get cut out of
snowflakes.
context. That's going to get cut. It's not really snow. It's going to get cut out of context.
Yeah, well, I know. It's ice. It's actually tiny little ice particles. So it doesn't if you live in an area that snows a lot, you know what that is. You're like, oh, that's not snow, that's ice. It's different. If you've gone skiing at a place like in Minnesota where they have to manufacture snow, it's similar because it's just little bits of ice chunks. So, and then they have a groomer that goes and runs around and like chops up the front of it and smooths it, and then they pull a weight that packs it down around the camp. So you're walking around, and instead of falling through into a bottom layer, there's this crust on top, and you can walk, and it's nice to walk on. And they did the whole area that we were at because we weren't right at the main camp. We were a bit away from it to make sure that the mountain that was to the south didn't block our view. So we we were walking around, and so a lot of it we're like kind of on top of this crust, but then there's areas where they didn't pack it as much, or where like they like if we walked a lot in an area, we kind of beat up that top crust layer, and then we kind of broke through it into some softer bits. And you see that over time in like the 360 camera because we had it running for 25 hours. You can see at the beginning there's all of these parallel lines all over the ground there that we walked on and were hard and crunchy. But then after a while, there's a couple pockets where it was like soft. And so, in fact, if you watch the video where I called up Nathan Oakley, near the end of it, I was walking towards Dave McKeegan, he had the camera recording me, and I walked toward him, and right in front of me is a hole that we had been walking in. It was soft, and so I walk, and I'm like, fall down, not fall down, but like step down into this kind of hole, and I'm like, oh, let me move a little more. So I kept moving to get out of that little hole. Not like a hole, but like it was just a couple inches lower, and
Yeah.
it was all soft uh, stuff kicking around. So that was one of the things the deniers, they're like, there was no footprints. Well, they didn't watch a whole lot of video because there's a lot of
A
footprints.
lot of them.
And yeah, this part that I just stepped into this hole made from a whole bunch of footprints.
I think that's a really interesting point as well, because I saw that was an argument that Eric Dubay brought up that you couldn't see footprints. And then I actually went to the part of the video that he was referencing, and about 15 seconds before, you could see footprints. So
Yeah.
it's that selective choice. But the thing is, they had to make everywhere compressed and flat anyway, because obviously when they set up the 360-degree stage from where obviously you faked the sun, the 300.
The insanity of what they're claiming, like so they claimed it's some sort of a soundstage, and so some people have said that they thought it was actually in Antarctica and that it was set up there with some giant, hemisphere of LED screens of some sort, or some have claimed it was done in Las Vegas or in California. But I don't know how those could have happened because at that time of year in both Las Vegas and California, it's rather warm. So snow wouldn't be snowy. Like, oh, it was all fake snow. Well, if you've ever experienced real snow and I don't know, you watch the movie where they have the fake snow, right? And they're walking along on the romantic walk, and then the girl goes and picks up a snowball and throws it in his face, right? And you're like, oh, that snow is totally fake. It doesn't act like real snow. And we just kind of laugh at ourselves. And I think that at them, right, and the movie, and I don't know. I think that the people that watch it who don't experience snow are like, oh, that's what snow is like. But it's not like that. Like if you get snow in your glove and you put another glove on it, your hand's going to get wet,
Yeah.
right? Gloves, if they're not like moisture shedding gloves, they're going to get wet. And you don't think about that. And so you might go if we've had relatives come up here from Texas and they go sledding and then half an hour in they're like my hands are wet and they're really cold. Really, this is terrible. Like, yeah, it's snow. It gets wet. It's made of water. So all of that stuff there where they're like, "Oh, you weren't like yeah, that actually looks like snow. It sounds like snow. You could hear on the microphones. You can hear us walking on. It's got there's a certain crunching sound. I'm like, that's what it sounds like here when you right now outside.
Well, I did one of my
Well, there's
recent
not much snow
videos.
right now.
I did a cost breakdown of so the Mandalorian, the screen, the 360-degree studio they used on the Mandalorian cost about $100 million for all of the panels. So I did a rough because
Wow.
obviously you're filming in the trucks as well. So I did a rough calculation of how big the screen would have to be, and I actually got it wrong in my video. In my video, I said around $500 million. It would have worked out about $26 billion to fake it with the amount of screen panels you'd need to cover the whole road going up to the camp and the actual 360-degree dome. It'd be somewhere between 24 to $26 billion to fake
Hmm.
it. And to some people, that's more logical than just seeing a 24-hour sun.
You could go yourself. But even then, it doesn't solve things
No.
Will Duffy brought his drone. He got permission from DJI because there's a limit on how high you can fly a drone.
Yeah, you
So
have
he
to
put in
unlock
an
it, don't you?
application. Yeah, he put an application to DJI and they approved it for a mile high. And it's only for a certain region, geographical area, and for certain days. And so he was approved for Union Glacier for the 4 days we were there. And John Marindi, a flat earther, who recorded the video, like he's the videographer for it, making the documentary. He did the same thing. So both of them got permission to do that. So he flew his drone up to a full mile high. How was that done inside the dome? Couldn't have been done inside of a fake dome. Um, we get in the vehicle, we drive away, it goes off into the distance. How did that happen? And then people that don't understand video, they're looking at it, they're zooming way into it as it's 4 pixels high. Seriously, like 4 pixels high. And they're like, oh, look, it just disappeared. Like it was 4 pixels. It was 4 pixels. And you're doing video compression on it. And oh my gosh. So
It's
I'm,
painful. It's
yeah.
painful.
So I'm uploading now, and it takes days and days and days. I'm uploading all of the raw original video for people to examine. You put it on YouTube, YouTube re-encodes everything. You lower the quality a little bit. So the files directly off of the Insta360 cameras, we are uploading. I haven't even started the Insta360 cameras because I have about 3 terabytes of my own footage from my not Insta, my Action Cam. So it's like a GoPro, and I have about 3 terabytes of that, and that's all uploading right now. I have about 40 of 150 files that are so far done. Then I'll do the 4 different Insta360 videos.
Yeah.
3 of them are a terabyte each, almost. And then there's a time lapse. So yeah,
That's
there's
a
there's a
lot of
lot of
footage.
data. Yeah. Yeah. So when that is, examined, like the 4 pixel that disappeared, and they're like, oh, you can zoom in even more because we'll have the original footage that's as, high quality as you can
I
off the
think one of
camera.
the most painful things about this is that you've got to make it available to squash the that point, so they can't bring it up.
Yeah.
But you just know that none of them will go through it, and if any of them do go through it, it will be to try and pick apart how
Yeah.
the bit rate was wrong because the sun was wrong or something stupid. It's one of those things. It's like I noticed that obviously Dave McKeegan made all of the sunspot photos available. Um, and he had to make sure the JPEGs were available as well as the RAW files because some people may not be able to open the RAW file in Lightroom or whatever. So it's this
Yeah.
constant having to protect yourself. And I feel like that's the only really bizarre thing about this trip to Antarctica, where the whole purpose of the trip to Antarctica, the whole time, you, Dave, and everyone else, and Will were having to think about how to squash an argument that could possibly come up. And no one's ever done an expedition on the pure purpose to have to prove that they did the expedition.
Yeah. Yeah. And we brought four flat earthers with us so that four flat earthers could attest to it. And we're not surprised that the people inside the cult, I'm not ashamed to say cult because it is, they've proven it. The people inside the cult are not going to easily leave the cult. And so when the four flat earthers go, their natural response is going to be, the four responses that, generally fake or it doesn't matter. And then if you're really insane, it was the devil. Uh, um, so it doesn't matter. Bring a flat earther to space. Doesn't that flat earther is now fake? Bring 10 flat earthers to space. All 10 of them were fake, right? It doesn't matter to flat earthers that are in a cult that who goes, right? And they won't generally want to test their position, right? Well, how about you pay to bring yourself to Antarctica? No, no flat earthers did a GoFundMe to go to Antarctica.
No,
None
but
of them.
that's something else as well. Like obviously you took the initiative to make sure that you could be a part of, because this is monumental for the flat earth argument. This for them should have been the creme de la creme to prove their point. This should have been the perfect opportunity for that community to rally together and do some science. And unfortunately, I mean, not unfortunately, because the content was brilliant, but unfortunately, they didn't rally together. And the second the 24-hour sun was seen by Flatter, I mean, our model predicted it would happen, but the second they saw that, they should have, if they do believe the Earth is flat and if they do have that conviction, it would be to go back to the drawing board and revise the model, make the model
Yeah.
work. And unfortunately, no one's done that yet. Before, they've always had the AE map to go back to. I mean, even though it never worked before, but they've gone back to that because there hasn't been anything as substantial as this to break it apart. But now there is
Yeah.
something like this. I'm very interested to see what happens from here. And that brings me on to the next question. What do you think happens from here with Flat Earth community?
Well, I think this severely curtails their evangelism, right? Cult, religion, they do evangelism. They proselytize their religion. So this will put a damper on it because the progression is they say this is the earth. And then the natural question is, well, how do seasons work? Say, oh well, the sun does circles. And it goes tight circles and wide circles because the sun is floating over the earth. And then another natural question is, oh, well, what about if you're in Antarctica? And until now, flat earthers would just say, oh, well, nobody's ever been there. Nobody's ever seen the 24-hour sun. They're all fake. It's this and this. There's no flat earthers ever. Well, now there's been news, global news, that four flat earthers went to Antarctica and saw the circling sun. So it works for somebody in the cult to say it was all fake, but people, because they want it to be fake. But people that aren't in the cult don't want it to be fake. They don't have a reason to think it was fake. So when they hear about that, they're like, oh, well, somebody was there. It was all fake. Why would it be all fake? Somebody went there. You could go there. Everybody could go there.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go? Right. So it will curtail the interest in it. The more press it gets that four flat earthers went and saw the circling sun, the more it destroys the ability for them to get more flat earthers. And so then you get atrophy and people, there's no new injection of people. And so, and of course, for 10 years, no flat earthers ever made any progress, right? They haven't improved their map. This is the same map they've had for 175 years. It doesn't work for navigation 175 years ago, and it doesn't work today. They can't do anything. They can't do celestial navigation. They can't explain gravity. The downward acceleration. They can't do whatever. Fill in the blank. They can't do it. And all they can do is deny that the Earth is a globe. Well, that doesn't work on new people. New people don't care about that. Like, we need answers. And so they've provided answers before, but they can't anymore. So I think it will they will atrophy. Um,
I
I
think
don't know.
stopping that progression of new people joining is the most important thing because of what we talked about earlier with how damaging it can be to relationships, to
Yeah.
your family, whatever. I think we're going to see the people within the community already double down and go harder. And the people that may have seen an Eric Dubay video recommended to them will now have the tools. People that maybe just actually be truth seekers wanting to know the truth, they now have the tools to make calculated decisions rather than just the straight up denial that anyone's ever been there. Because we now have recent evidence filmed in 4K. In fact, the 360 footage was 5.7K.
Yeah.
There's more than enough to stop that happening, which is a good thing. And I think a good thing to kind of close on, unless there's anything else you want to add before the last point.
Not a whole lot. I think we've covered the details here in a good enough coverage. Other than if people are interested in more, I do live debates and live streams on the topic on my MC Toon live channel, and I do pre-recorded videos on my Conspiracy Tunes channel. And so those are shorter. They're 10 to 20 minutes typically, where a live stream will be 2 hours. If you're interested in a 2 hour interaction with the flat earther where they try to explain things and can't, it's a good time. It's fun, but it's 2 hours. And if you're interested in a 20-minute thing, well, I've got you covered there too on Conspiracy Tunes. So I'm starting now to put together a day by day journal of what I did for the trip, and it won't be super flat Earth centric. It will be, this was my trip, and here's what we did. And so, of course, the point of the trip won't be hidden, but here is me in on the trip. So if you're interested in going to Antarctica, this is a great thing to look at to see what I went through in order to get there.
That's awesome. And everyone as well, the pinned comment is, of course, both channels. I have the Conspiracy Tunes and I have the MC Toon channel. The last question, and this is the same question I asked Dave McKeegan. If someone knows someone that's going down the flat earth rabbit hole and maybe is more predisposed to conspiracy theories, what advice would you give to them?
To the person who knows somebody
Yes. Yeah.
that's headed there, um, if you know about it, they're probably already gone. Because I think for the most part, people will hear about it. They will then watch 100 flat Earth videos, and the fact that they didn't watch the first one and then get disgusted by the ridiculous incorrectness of it says that they are the correct mark for the flat Earth scam. And but they don't do this publicly. So by the time they have said anything publicly, they have already consumed all of those videos and are probably on the other side of the fence, and very likely aren't going to be salvaged. Like it's a pessimistic position, and I would love to be wrong on this. But my experience has been the other way. By the time they say anything publicly, they're gone. So, um, I, 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 am It's pessimistic. I don't have a lot. Um, they it is a mind virus. They are not going to listen to reason because they didn't get into flat Earth because they were listening to reason. They thought they were listening to reason, but they were not. They typically will their most poorly understood thing is lasers across water, which leverages atmospheric conditions that that bring light farther than it would if there were no atmospheric conditions. But the flat earthers are really good at lying about it and pretending that these conditions don't exist. So that's that. But it's already in there. That mind virus is already, set in, and they're not going to be listening to reason anymore. So what can you do? Well, protect your other friends and family from them, from that same mind virus. Um, you certainly could send them to some different channels that have, science information, correct information, but flat earthers don't have an appetite for watching videos that contradict flat earth. So and that's the thing I've really found. Flat earthers will comment on my videos in ways that makes it very clear they didn't watch the video at all. So how you send them a video and they don't watch it. Flat earthers don't consume globe content. I watch flat earth content because it's and
Interesting.
other people in our community do that because watching the train wreck is something that people like to do, but they don't watch our stuff. So send it to them, but don't be shocked when they won't watch it.